You ever pack your bags for a place you've never seen? Not a vacation. No postcard picture. No itinerary. Just a whisper in your chest that says, it's time. Not time to run. Not time to escape. Time to move. And move doesn't mean chaos, not this time. It means shift. It means transition. It means that everything you once clung to, every routine, every broken comfort is about to be irrelevant, obsolete. Like an old suit that doesn't fit anymore, but you keep wearing it 'cause you're scared of how naked you'll feel without it. You ever feel it? That itch under your skin. That sense that everything around you, all the routines, the conversations, the so-called comfort zones, they've all turned stale. Like walking through a museum of your own life where everything's frozen and dusted with disappointment. You nod, you smile, you play along, but deep down you're screaming. Not loud though. No, not that kind of scream. The kind that presses against your bones from the inside, the kind that whispers, this ain't it. That's not failure. That's a signal, a glitch in the illusion, a quiet memo from something higher saying we're done here. But people don't get that. They'll call you ungrateful, crazy even, for wanting to walk away from a life that looks just fine on paper. You've got the things they chase, right? A place to sleep, a mask to wear, a role in the performance. But none of it fits anymore. The shoes are too tight. The mirrors are lying. You start to feel like a stranger in your own scenes. And then it hits you, this isn't where you belong anymore. Not because it's bad, but because you've outgrown it. You're not melting down, you're molting. And molting, that's not cute. It's messy, uncomfortable, bloody even. Growth always is. See, people think being moved means you failed where you were. No. That's what they say to make themselves feel better for staying stuck. You're being moved because you did the work. You faced things they ran from. You walked through fire without screaming for help. And now you're being promoted to a level they can't see yet. Not everyone gets the call. Not everyone can handle the noise that comes after the silence. But you're not everyone. You started noticing things. The way small talk started tasting like sand in your mouth. The way certain rooms made your chest feel tight. The way you couldn't fake the laugh anymore. That's not you being dramatic. That's alignment trying to find you. That's your old self realizing it's being evicted. And when that shift starts, everything around you gets louder. The distractions, the drama, the detours, they all crank up, trying to pull you back into the loop. But this time you don't bite. Not because you're cold, because you're awake. And the irony, the ones who once cheered for you are the first to call you distant. Oh, how dare you grow past their expectations. How dare you rewrite the script they cast you in. But growth doesn't ask for permission. It kicks down the door. And when you try to stay small in a space you've outgrown, your soul starts rioting. It'll sabotage your peace, your sleep, your appetite, not to punish you, to provoke you, to remind you we're not supposed to be here anymore. People love the version of you they can predict, the one that plays nice, the one that doesn't question the system. But the moment you start peeling off the costume, they panic. You stop showing up the same way. You stop apologizing for taking up space. And that, my friend, makes them nervous. Because now you're a mirror. You reflect the parts they've ignored in themselves. That's why they'll call you difficult, detached, disloyal. But you know better. You're not leaving out of bitterness. You're leaving out of necessity. And this move, it's not about a new city, a new job, a new face to kiss. It's about expansion, internal, eternal, the kind you can't reverse once it starts, and that's terrifying. Because once you leave the familiar, there's no going back. You'll try. Oh, you'll try. You'll revisit old places, old people, hoping the feeling returns. But it won't. Because the version of you that loved those places doesn't live there anymore. You'll walk lighter, not because life got easier, but because you stopped dragging dead weight. You'll speak softer, not out of weakness, but because chaos no longer amuses you. You'll become unrecognizable to people who never really knew you. And that's the point. This isn't a breakdown. This is a breakthrough in disguise. An exit from the theater. A shift in the story. A cosmic nudge towards something you can't explain but feel in your bones. That ache, that pull, that's your future begging you to stop settling for a past that's expired. You ever watch someone look at you like they're holding a mirror up to something you thought you buried? Not a glare, not a stare, just stillness. And in that stillness, you start to feel exposed. Not because they're judging you, but because for once someone's actually seeing you. The raw version. The unfiltered, unpolished, unscripted edition. No makeup, no mask, no motivational quote stitched to your chest. Just you. And it's uncomfortable, isn't it? When someone doesn't flinch at your darkness. When someone looks straight into the chaos inside you and smiles like they've been there too. It's funny, isn't it? How we spend so much time building walls, setting traps, creating versions of ourselves just to survive. You convince yourself that if anyone really saw what's behind the curtain, they'd run. They'd retreat. They'd reinforce everything you already believe about being too much, too broken, too complicated to love. So you test them. You push, you snap. You disappear for days just to see if they'll notice, if they'll chase, if they'll stay. And when they do, oh, that's when it gets dangerous. That's when your heart starts panicking. Because now you've got evidence. Proof that maybe you're not as unlovable as you thought. And that wrecks everything you used to hide behind. You see, trust isn't built on laughter and compliments. It's built on the ugly stuff. The contradictions, the silence. The way someone holds your name when you're too tired to hold it yourself. And when someone shows up in your life like that, no conditions, no contracts, you don't know what to do with it. Because for the first time, love isn't something you have to earn. It's not a transaction. It's a reflection, a mirror you can't shatter no matter how many pieces of yourself you throw at it. But it scares you. Because you've been alone so long, solitude became a shield. You learn how to heal yourself, fight for yourself, rise without applause. You became your own army, your own compass, your own rescuer. So when someone steps in and offers to walk beside you, not ahead of you, not behind you, but with you, it feels like a trap. You start reading between lines that don't exist. Looking for exits, waiting for betrayal to knock on the door like it always does. But it doesn't. Not this time. They sit with you in your silence. They don't fix you. Don't try to rewrite your story. They just listen. They honor your ghosts. And in that strange, terrifying intimacy, something inside you softens, slowly, hesitantly, like a prisoner peeking through the bars to see if the world outside is still as cruel as it was when they got locked in. And maybe it is, but with this person, the air feels different, warmer, safer. You won't say it out loud, of course. You'll laugh it off, throw sarcasm on top of it like dirt on a coffin. But deep down, you know this person isn't here to break you. They're here to remind you what it feels like to be whole, to be witnessed without being dissected, to be loved without being fixed. That kind of presence is rare. It's threatening. Because now you can't pretend no one's ever chosen you. Now you can't hide behind the lie that you're always alone. Now you've got a witness. And a witness changes everything. They'll see things in you that you forgot existed. The softness you had before the world turned you hard. The dreams you buried under survival mode. The laugh that hasn't escaped your mouth in years, they'll call it back to life, not with a megaphone, but with a whisper, a touch, a glance. And it'll haunt you in the best way, because now you've got a reason to heal. Not for them, for you, because someone saw the gold in you, while you were still covered in ash. And that kind of love, it doesn't save you. It invites you to come home, to remember, to rise, and you'll fight it. Oh, you'll fight it hard. But deep down, some part of you, the part that's still alive under the armor, will start to believe. Maybe not all at once, but piece by piece, you'll stop bracing for the goodbye that never comes. You'll start letting the light in. And maybe, just maybe, you'll stop apologizing for how bright you were meant to shine. Now we're talking about the academic, aren't we? The wild, twisted little theater where you audition for a role in your own life, hoping the crowd cheers loud enough to convince you it's real. You wear your best smile, stretch your voice just right, and wait for anyone to hand you a script that finally makes sense. But the thing is, no one's giving you the script, because they don't have it. You do. And most of the time you've been holding it upside down, reading lines that don't even belong to you, performing for ghosts who stopped watching a long time ago. But this person, this strange, inconvenient, terrifying person, they show up and they don't buy the performance. They look at you like they've read the original version, the uncut version, the one you swore no one would ever get to see. And what do? You panic. Of course you panic. You rewrite scenes, try on new costumes, recite safer monologues, but they don't budge. They're still there, still watching, not clapping, not judging, just witnessing. And that unnerves you more than any applause or boo ever could, because now your carefully constructed stage starts to crumble, and beneath it, there's you, not the character, not the survivor, not the warrior poet with the poetic scars and well-timed silence, just you, breathing, cracked, real. And somehow that's the version they love, not the one you sold, not the one you filtered. The broken sentences, the unfinished thoughts, the stories you only ever whispered into the dark, they want that. They see the worth in what you were convinced was worthless. So now the real circus begins. Not the kind with clowns and confetti, but the kind where you question every choice, every instinct, every twitch of your heart that wants to believe this isn't a trick. That maybe, just maybe, this isn't someone trying to possess you or fix you or save you. It's someone simply showing up, not as your answer, but as a mirror. And mirrors, well, they're not always pretty. Especially when they're honest, you start remembering things. The way your voice sounded before it was silenced. The way your hands used to create before they learned to shield. The way your heart used to open before it turned into a vault. And you hate it, because it means you have to feel again. You have to come back. And coming back means facing all the versions of you that never got closure, all the fragments, all the abandoned dreams, all the nights you tried to burn yourself into something easier to understand. But this person doesn't flinch. They don't leave when you raise your voice or shut down. They don't recoil when your past claws its way into the room. They sit in the middle of your storm and refuse to leave, not because they're fearless, but because they aren't trying to run. And in a world that taught you love meant earning, proving, chasing this kind of stillness feels dangerous, feels foreign, feels like the truth. And now you've got a choice. Do you stay hidden? Do you keep rehearsing the same lines, hoping no one notices how exhausted you are from pretending? Or do you step out shaking, stuttering, bleeding truth? Do you let yourself be seen, even if your voice cracks and your hands tremble? Because the moment you do really do, it won't be dramatic. It won't be fireworks, it'll be quiet. Just you exhaling the lie that you've been too much to hold, too hard to keep, too messy to love. You don't need a savior. You never did. You needed a witness. Someone to say, I see you, and I'm not looking away. You needed someone who didn't need to understand every wound to respect the pain, who didn't ask you to justify the shadows before they offered you light. And that someone, they're not your purpose, they're not your finish line, they're the signal, the warning bell, that maybe after everything it's safe to come out, not to perform, but to be. You ever realize how silence can be louder than a scream? That little ache in your chest when no one says it, but you feel it. The shift, the pull, the presence. People think love makes noise. They think it's grand gestures and swelling music and dramatic speeches about fate. But no, real love, the kind that sneaks under Your skin and refuses to leave. It's quiet. It's unsettling. It doesn't knock on the door. It slips in through the cracks, sits on your broken furniture, and hums a tune you forgot you knew. And just like that, it's not about fireworks, it's about stillness. It's about how someone's breathing can make the chaos in your head feel like it. It's about how their silence doesn't demand you to perform. It gives you permission to rest. And resting, oh, that's dangerous. Because if you rest, you feel. And if you feel, you remember. And if you remember, the masks start to fall. That's when it gets messy. That's when it gets real. You start noticing things you used to ignore. The way your heartbeat changes when they enter a room. The way your hands stop shaking when they sit beside you. It's not magic. It's not destiny. It's just familiar, like they've been there before. Not in a past life fairy tale kind of way. No, in that you've been through hell too, haven't you? Kind of way. You recognize each other in the scars. You speak fluent damage. And in a world full of liars, that kind of honesty feels like a threat. So what do? You sabotage it, of course. That's the routine, isn't it? You pick a fight. You disappear. You wait for them to prove they're just like the rest. And when they don't, when they stay, when they look you in the eye and don't flinch, you panic. Because now you've got evidence. Proof that maybe someone can stay. Proof that maybe you're not impossible to love. That kind of proof is dangerous. It shatters the lies you've lived in for years. It makes you look at yourself without the filters. And when they say things like, "I'm not going anywhere," you don't believe them. You nod, you smile. But inside you're building an escape route. You're rehearsing the ending before the middle has even started. Because if you leave first, it won't hurt as bad, right? If you tear it down before it blooms, no one can accuse you of being naive. That's what survival taught you. Love is a risk. Intimacy is a weapon. Vulnerability is a loaded gun pointed at your chest. But here's the twist. They don't play by those rules. They sit through the silence. They don't walk away when you shut down. They don't run when the ugly surfaces. They lean in. They listen. And not the kind of listening where they're just waiting for their turn to talk. No, the kind where they're holding space, holding you, and suddenly you're not just seen, you're held. And being held when you've spent your whole life bracing for impact, that kind of tenderness feels like violence, so you test it again. Push harder. Say things you don't mean. Try to scare them off. But they see through it. They know the difference between your bark and your pain. And they choose you anyway. Not the idea of you. Not the version you sold to the world. You, with all the mess, all the baggage, all the ghosts you try to keep hidden in the basement. They don't want to fix it. They just want to be there while you figure it out. That kind of love. It doesn't ask for masks. It asks for presence. And the strangest part, you start believing them. Not all at once. Not in some dramatic revelation. Just little by little. In the way they remember the small things. In the way they check in without needing a reason. In the way they don't need to fix your sadness, they just sit in it with you. And suddenly you're not performing anymore. You're not editing yourself for approval. You're just being. And it's terrifying, but it's also freedom. Because now, love isn't something you chase. It's something you allow. You know what's funny? People think finding someone who loves you means finding someone who understands you. But the truth, understanding is overrated. What people really want, what they need, is someone who sees them. Not the highlight reel, not the curated version with all the flaws airbrushed and all. The bad days skipped like a broken record. No, they want to be seen in the raw, in the ruin and the riot of their own inner world. And the scariest part, when someone actually does, that's when things start to crack. You've worn masks for so long they became skin. You forgot where the performance ends and the person begins. So when someone steps in and says, "I see you," your first instinct isn't relief. It's suspicion. Paranoia. You think, what do they really want? What's the angle? Because love to you was always a contract with fine print. A game of power. a trade, a leash. But this one doesn't play that game. They're not trying to own you or fix you or turn you into something easier to digest. They're not confused by your contradictions. They sit in them like an old chair, comfortable, familiar, maybe even a little broken. They laugh at your darkness, not because it's funny, but because it's real. Because there's truth there. And truth is rare. Truth makes people uncomfortable, but not them. They don't flinch when you unravel. When your voice trembles or your eyes scream what your mouth won't say, they don't reach for a broom to sweep up the pieces. They sit with them. And not like they're tolerating you. No, they honor it. Like every scar you've tried to bury has a story worth hearing. Like every wall you've built is something they don't want to tear down, they want to understand what it was built in the first place. And that's where it starts to shift. Slowly, messily, you begin to let them in. Not all at once. Not in grand gestures, just in pauses and stares that last too long. In late night conversations where the words slip out before your brain can stop them. And they don't run. They stay, they choose to stay. And you're left sitting there wondering why. Wondering how someone could look at the worst of you and not blink. But the most terrifying part isn't that they love you. It's that they make you want to love yourself. They hold up a mirror and say, look what I see. And you can't argue. Because it's not flattery. It's not fantasy. It's evidence. It's in the way they touch you like your art. In the way they remember things you said once and never thought anyone heard. In the way they let you fall apart and don't treat you like a project. You're not a mess to clean up. You're a universe to explore. And suddenly the idea of love doesn't feel like a weapon anymore. It feels like a revolution. Like something that burns down the lies and clears space for something true. You stop apologizing for your feelings. You stop shrinking. You stop editing your existence to make someone else comfortable. Because you've tasted a connection that doesn't demand compromise, just presence. And presence is rare. Presence is holy. They don't just show up for the parts of you that are easy to love. They hold the parts that others call too much, too loud, too complicated. They hold them like they matter, like you matter. And in that holding, you learn to stop hiding. You learn that maybe the parts of you that scared people away weren't flaws, they were tests. Not tests you designed, but filters. Filters for the real. For the ones brave enough to stay. For the ones brave enough to see. You stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. You stop preparing for the ending before the beginnings had a chance to breathe. You start living in the moment, not the fantasy, not the fear. Just the moment. And in that moment you realize love isn't found in perfection. It's found in the choosing to stay, the choosing to listen, the choosing to see the worst and still offer your best.